Hi, I'm Nick Bolton, the founder of Animas Centre for Coaching. In this video, I want to explore one of the most radical ideas in transformative coaching, and that's the unknowing principle. This principle challenges one of our strongest habits as human beings, the habit of assuming we understand, assuming we know, assuming we can interpret another person's experience before they've had a chance to fully discover it for themselves. In everyday life, we make meaning very quickly. We hear a story and we immediately form an opinion. We jump to conclusions. We connect the dots based on our own history, based on our own assumptions, based on our own worldview, based on our own biases. And of course, this is perfectly normal in everyday life. It's how the human mind works. But in coaching, this is a tendency that can narrow the conversation, even unintentionally. The unknowing principle invites us to set aside that instinct. It asks us to suspend the desire to understand quickly, to resist the urge to offer interpretations, and to let go of the comfort of having the answer. Instead, we step into a space of genuine curiosity, a space where we don't know what the client's experience means until they discover it. This stance is deceptively simple but profoundly impactful. When we enter a coaching session with a sense of unknowing, we create the conditions for deep inquiry. The client no longer feels subtly steered or evaluated. They aren't being nudged towards our interpretation. They're invited into their own exploration, their own meaning-making, their own unfolding understanding. Unknowing creates spaciousness, an openness in which insight can emerge, not from the coach's ideas and questions necessarily, but from the client's lived experience showing up. It also requires humility from the coach, the humility to recognize that no matter how experienced we are, no matter how many clients we've worked with, we can't possibly know what it is to be this person in this moment, in this specific context. Their world is too complex, too personal, too nuanced for us to assume understanding, and ours is too limited. And it's in that humility that dialogue becomes alive. The client begins to sense that the coach is not waiting for a particular answer. They're not being funneled towards a particular outcome. They're being listened to deeply, attentively, without judgment or expectation. And in that listening, they start to hear themselves more clearly, sometimes for the very first time. Unknowing is also what protects the coaching from becoming prescriptive. If we think we already understand the client's experience, our questions become leading. Our reflections become interpretations. Our presence subtly shifts from exploration to guidance. But when we remain in the unknowing stance, our questions become invitations rather than instructions. They open rather than narrow. They reveal rather than shape. The principle is intimately connected to others, of course. It strengthens phenomenology because we're not imposing meaning. It supports emergence because the conversation can unfold organically. It deepens the relational space because the client feels genuinely met. And it fuels the dialogic principle because meaning arises between us rather than from us. Unknowing also helps the clients access their own inner wisdom. When we as coaches step back from being the meaning makers, clients step forward. They begin to trust themselves. They take responsibility for their insights. And the coaching becomes an act of empowerment rather than an act of instruction or guidance. And perhaps most significantly, the unknowing principle mirrors the very nature of human transformation. Real change doesn't come from certainty. It comes from curiosity, experimentation, and the willingness to explore the unknown, both within ourselves and within the world. By modeling unknowing, the coach creates a living example of what it looks like to navigate life without needing to cling to immediate certain answers. So when we talk about the unknowing principle in transformative coaching, we're talking about a particular kind of presence, one that is open, curious, humble, and deeply respectful of the client's unfolding process. It's a stance that says, I don't know where this is going, and that's exactly why it's worth exploring. And in that shared not knowing, transformation finds its space to emerge. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.